You think you know this holiday. You see the twinkling lights on the tree. You smell the cinnamon in the mulled wine. You feel the warmth of the fire. To us, these are just decorations. Pretty traditions we pull out of a box once a year. But what if I told you that these aren't just decorations? What if I told you they are survival tools? Tonight, we are going to peel back the wrapping paper of the last 2,000 years. We are going to travel back to a time when lighting a candle wasn't a festive gesture, but an act of desperate defiance against a terrifying, encroaching dark. We are going to watch the greatest empire in human history collapse under the weight of winter. We are going to stand on the frozen banks of the Rhine River as the world ends, and we are going to watch how humanity found the courage to build a new one in the ashes. This isn't the story of Santa Claus. This is the story of how we learned to keep the light alive when the sun went away. So before we cross the threshold into the past, if you find comfort in these journeys through time, I would be so grateful if you would subscribe to our channel and like this video. It helps our campfire grow a little brighter. And if you are so inclined, leave a quiet comment down below. Tell me where in the world you are drifting off from tonight and what time it is there. It is always a wonderful feeling to see our community spanning the globe, keeping watch together in the quiet hours. Now, let's get you ready for the journey. Adjust your pillow until it supports you perfectly. If you have a pet sleeping nearby or a weighted blanket, feel that grounding pressure settling you into the mattress. Turn the lights down low or off completely. Now let's get you ready so this journey of connection is even easier and safer. Listen to the hum of your heater or the wind outside, and let it become a gentle white noise, washing away the tension of the day. Let your jaw unhinge. Let your shoulders drop. We are about to travel a very long way, not just across miles, but across millennia. We are going to a place that feels incredibly distant, yet strangely familiar. We are going to find the heartbeat of a holiday you think you know, but whose origins are buried deep in the soil of history, wrapped in the roots of ancient forests, and hidden in the marble shadows of great empires. We tend to think of Christmas as a singular event, a moment in a manger, but tonight I want you to see it differently. I want you to see the season not as a date on a calendar, but as a fortress. A fortress built of light, feast, and fire, constructed by humanity to keep out the most terrifying thing they knew, the winter dark. Tonight, we aren't in a snowy Victorian village. Not yet. Tonight, we are standing at the absolute zenith of the ancient world. The high noon of civilization. Picture this. It is December 17th, within the year 217 AD. You are standing on the balcony of a villa on the Palatine Hill in Rome. The air is crisp, carrying that specific, biting chill that settles over the Italian peninsula in deep winter. It smells of wood smoke, thousands of hearth fires burning pine and cedar, mixed with the metallic tang of the Tiber River and the faint, sweet scent of roasting honey cakes drifting up from the streets below. Below you, the city of Rome is waking up, but it is not the disciplined, militaristic Rome of the history book. It is something else entirely. The sun is just cresting the horizon, bathing the terracotta rooftops in a pale wash gold light. But the city is already roaring. Down in the Forum, the heart of the world, the marble columns are draped in garlands of holly and ivy. The statues of stern generals have been dressed in colorful synthesis robes, garish, bright silks that would be illegal to wear at any other time of year. This is Saturnalia. For the ancient Romans, this wasn't just a holiday. This was the pressure release valve for the entire known world. If the Roman Empire was a machine of iron and law, Saturnalia was the moment the gears were oiled with wine and laughter. It was the golden age briefly restored, a mythical time when Saturn ruled, when work was forbidden, and when all men were equal. Imagine you are a senator. You are a man of immense power and wealth. Usually, your life is governed by the clock, by the Senate schedule, by the heavy, suffocating wool of your white toga. But this morning, you do not reach for the white wool. That is the uniform of business, of gravity. Instead, you put on a tunic of deep saffron yellow or vibrant green. You feel the silk against your skin, a luxury imported all the way from the mysterious lands of the Serres, the Chinese, thousands of miles to the east. This is the first miracle of this age, the global supply chain. You walk through your villa. The floors beneath your feet are warm. This is the Haka system, a marvel of engineering where hot air from a furnace is circulated under the floor. It is a centralized heating system that rivals anything in the modern world. You take this for granted. You assume that civilized people will always have warm floors in winter. You cannot imagine a world where this technology is lost, where people freeze in stone rooms, forgetting how to channel the heat. You enter the dining room, the triclinium. It is decked out in greenery. Branches of pine and fir have been brought inside. The evergreen. Think about that symbol for a moment. In a world where everything dies, where the crops wither, the leaves fall, and the earth turns brown, these branches remain green. They are a promise. They are a biological defiance of death. Bringing them into your home is a spell. You are saying to nature, life continues here. Your slaves are there. But today the world is upside down. During Saturnalia, the social hierarchy, the rigid ladder that holds the empire together, is flipped. You, the master, wait on them. You pour the wine, they wear your clothes. They gamble with dice on the dinner table, shouting and laughing at you. It is a jarring experience, a surreal piece of theater, but it is essential. It acts as a safety valve for the social pressure of the year. It's a reminder that beneath the titles and the robes, we are all just mortals huddling together against the cold. Let's step out of the villa and walk down into the street. The sensory overload is immediate. If you think modern Christmas shopping is chaotic, imagine the Via Sacra during Saturnalia. It is the Times Square and the Wall Street of the ancient world rolled into one, but amplified by the raw energy of 1 million people living in close quarters, the noises of physical weight. Laio Saturnalia! People shout. A greeting that functions just like Merry Christmas, but louder, rowdier. It echoes off the stone temples. You pass the stalls of the vendors. This is the great marketplace of the Pax Romana. Look at what is for sale. There are piles of sigillaria, small clay or wax figurines. Some look like gods, some like animals, some are caricatures of famous people. These are the ancestors of the action figure, the doll, the stocking stuffer. Parents are haggling over them. A father is buying a clay gladiator for his son. A woman is buying a silver comb for her sister. The exchange of gifts is happening all around you. It is the lubricant of society. The gift creates a bond. It says, I see you and I value you. But look closer at the stalls. Look at the abundance. There are dates from Judea. There is pepper from India, worth its weight in gold, yet here it is, dusted onto a pork sausage. There is glassware from Egypt, delicate and translucent. This is the Amazon prime of the Bronze and Iron Ages. The Roman roads, 50,000 miles of stone-paved highways, and the shipping lanes of the Mediterranean, the Mare Nostrum, our sea, act as a massive, efficient conveyor belt moving goods from the edge of the Sahara to the misty walls of Scotland. You feel secure here. You feel that this system is eternal. How could it not be? The aqueducts bring fresh water from the mountains, millions of gallons a day, gushing into fountains on every corner. The legions guard the borders. The coin in your purse, the silver denarius, is accepted everywhere from London to Damascus. The world is one, but there is a deeper reason for this party. A reason that goes beyond politics or economic. As the afternoon wears on, the shadows lengthen. The winter sun, pale and watery, begins to dip behind the Capitoline Hill. The temperature drops instantly. You feel a prickle of primal fear. We, in the modern world, have killed the night. We flip a switch and the LED lights banish the shadows. We have forgotten what true darkness is. But you, in 217 AD, you know darkness. You know that when the sun goes down, the world becomes a hostile place. There are no streetlights. The spirits of the dead are set to wander. Wolves come closer to the city walls. And more terrifying than the daily night is the yearly cycle. For months, you have watched the sun get weaker. It rises later. It sets earlier. Its arc across the sky gets lower and lower. To the ancient mind, this wasn't just astronomy. It was a crisis. What if it keeps going? What if the sun just sinks into the horizon and never comes back? What if the winter never ends? This is the mystery at the heart of the season. The history of Christmas is at its core the history of humanity, begging the sun to return. So, on December 25th, the Romans celebrate Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Imagine standing in the Campus Martius as the sun sets on the shortest day of the year. The crowd is silent now. The partying of Saturnalia has paused for a moment of reverence. Bonfires are lit, not just for warmth, but for sympathetic magic. You are trying to fuel the sun. You are lighting fires on earth to encourage the fire in the sky. Look, you are saying to the heavens, we are still burning. You should burn too. When the priests announce that the days have begun to lengthen, even by a minute, the relief is palpable. The sun has been reborn. The unconquered sun has defeated the darkness for one more year. The cosmos is safe. Let's zoom in on a specific moment, a specific microhistory that captures this golden age. You are a writer named Macrobius. Technically, Macrobius will write a bit later, but he captures the spirit of this peak era perfectly. You are sitting in a library. Another amenity of the high civilization. It is quiet here, smelling of papyrus and cedar oil. You are writing a letter to your son. You want to explain why this holiday matters. You dip your reed pen into the ink. You write about the dinner parties. You write about the Lord of Misrule, the distinct ancestor of the King of the Bean or the Lord of the Manor, a mock king chosen by dice to lead the festivities, issuing silly commands that everyone must obey. Sing a song naked, dance like a bear. It seems frivolous, but you, Microbius, understand the utility. You write that the heavy machinery of the empire, the constant grinding of duty and war and law, produces friction, heat, exhaustion. If you don't let the steam out, the machine explodes. Saturnalia, you realize, is the maintenance schedule of the Roman soul. It allows the rigid class structure to bend so that it doesn't break. By letting the slaves be masters for a day, you ensure they don't rise up and become masters forever. Or so you hope. The legacy of the light. As you walk back to your villa on the Palatine, the night has fully fallen, but the city is not dark. This is the most beautiful sight of the ancient world. Every window, every doorway, every shop front is filled with candles. Cereri, they are called, wax tapers. They are gifts too. People give them to one another to symbolize the light of friendship, but also to add their tiny spark to the collective war against the dark. From up on the hill, Rome looks like a reflection of the Milky Way. Thousands of flickering orange stars pinned to the earth. The sound of singing drifts up. It is a song of abundance, of wine, of the sun. You stand there, wrapping your saffron cloak tight against the wind. You look at this sprawling, magnificent civilization. The aqueducts are flowing, the roads are open, the legions are strong. The sun has turned the corner and is coming. That it feels invincible, feels like this golden afternoon will last forever. You cannot know, standing there in the warm glow of the oil lamp, that the barometer is falling. You cannot hear the very faint, rhythmic thumping of hooves on the frozen ground hundreds of miles to the north. You cannot see that the trade routes are stretching just a little too thin. Like a rubber band pulled to its limit, you are enjoying the party. You are celebrating the light. But just outside the ring of the firelight, the shadows are waiting. The golden age is at its peak, which means by definition the descent is about to begin. There is a chill in the wind tonight that has nothing to do with the weather, and as we drift deeper into sleep, we have to ask, what happens when the candles burn down? What happens when the Amazon Prime of the ancient world stops delivering? But that is a story for the next chapter. For now, let the image of the glowing, golden city of Rome settle in your mind. The warmth of the floor beneath your feet, the smell of the evergreen, the promise that the sun will return. You are safe here in the light. The miracle of the spice jar. Take a moment to let the images of the golden city settle in the back of your mind. You are safe there, high on the hill, watching the lights flicker in the valley below. Breathe in deeply. And as you exhale, I want you to focus on a specific sensation. I want you to imagine a scent. It is a smell that, to you, screams holiday. It is warm, spicy, slightly sweet, and woody. It is the smell of cinnamon. We sprinkle it on lattes, we dust it on cookies. It is so common in our modern world that we don't even think about it. It's just brown powder in a jar. But tonight, we are going to trace the invisible lines that brought that scent to your nose. We are going to peel back the surface of the Roman holiday to reveal the engine room. Because the Golden Age wasn't just about marble statues and philosophy. It was about logistics. It was about a web of connections so vast, so complex, and so fragile that its existence was essentially a miracle. Tonight, we follow the thread. Picture this. You are back in that Roman villa from our first chapter. The feast is over. The guests have moved to the couches. You, the host, signal to a slave. He brings out a small, polished box made of cedar wood. You open it with a sense of ceremony. Inside, resting on a bed of silk, are curled brown sticks. In 217 AD, this is not a baking ingredient. This is treasure. This is cassia and cinnamon. This is wealth condensed into matter. To burn this in your hearth, to just let it turn into smoke, is the ultimate flex. It is like burning a stack of $100 bills. But how is it here? How is a piece of dried bark from a tree that grows only in Southeast Asia, sitting in a bowl in Italy, 5,000 miles away? To understand the tragedy of the collapse that is coming, you have to understand the miracle of this system that is working right now. Imagine you are a sailor, but not a Roman sailor. You are a navigator on the Indian Ocean. The year is the same, but the world is blue, vast, and terrifying. You are standing on the deck of a massive merchant vessel. The wood beneath your bare feet is teak, seasoned by the salt and the sun. Above you, the sails are billowing, catching a wind that feels like the hand of a god pushing you forward. This is the Hippolytus wind. The monsoon. This is the secret engine of the ancient economy. The Romans, the Arabs, and the Indians figured out that the winds of the Indian Ocean act like a conveyor belt. For 6 months, they blow steadily one way. For the next 6 months, they blow the other way. If you time it right, you can ride this conveyor belt across the open ocean, skipping the dangerous coastlines. It was the jet stream of the ancient world. You are carrying ton upon ton of pepper, cinnamon, and silk. You are the lifeblood of the empire, but you have never seen Rome. You are just a link in the chain. You look out at the horizon, trusting the wind, trusting the stars. You are part of a global machine that hums with efficiency. Now shift your perspective. You are a customs agent in the port of Alexandria, Egypt. The ship has docked. The air is thick with the smell of rotting seaweed, sweat, and exotic spices. The noise is a babble of languages: Greek, Latin, Aramaic, Coptic, Nubian. Your job is boring. It is tedious, and it is the most important job in the world. You are holding a papyrus scroll. You are checking a manifest. You are the terms and service agreement of the ancient world. You are calculating the vectigal, the tax. Think about the complexity of this. A merchant in Rome paid a banker in Naples who sent a letter of credit to a warehouse in Alexandria to buy goods from a ship captain from India who bought them from a farmer in Sri Lanka. There is no internet. There are no phones. There is only trust. Trust in the Roman law. Trust that the coin, the silver denarius with the emperor's face on it, is worth something. Trust that the legions keep the pirates away. This is the invisible web. It is a net woven of ink and paper, of laws and treaties, It wraps around the known world, binding the snowy forests of Germany to the sand dunes of Arabia. It is the internet of the first millennium. It transmits culture, religion, and goods at a speed that wouldn't be matched again until the 19th century. Let's follow the cinnamon stick further. It leaves Alexandria. It crosses the Mediterranean, the Roman lake. It arrives at Ostia, the port of Rome. It is loaded onto a barge and towed up the Tiber River by oxen. Walking along the muddy banks, it is unloaded by a guild of porters who have a union, who have a specific temple they worship at, who have a specific burial club they pay dues to. Every single hand that touches that spice jar is a specialist. In a primitive world, everyone does everything. You grow your own wheat, you make your own clothes, you build your own hut. But in a complex civilization, nobody does everything. You do one thing. You are a shoemaker. That's it. You don't grow food. You trade shoes for food. You are a lawyer. You don't build houses. You trade arguments for shelter. This is called specialization. It makes the standard of living skyrocket. It allows for heated floors and poetry and philosophy. But, and here is the shadow, it makes every single person helpless on their own. If the ship stops coming, the shoemaker starves. If the papyrus runs out, the lawyer has no job. If the aqueduct breaks, the city dies. The people of Rome enjoying their Saturnalia are like astronauts living on a space station. They are supported by a massive, intricate life support system that they cannot see and that they do not know how to fix, the northern web. Now, let's leave the warmth of the Mediterranean for a moment. Let's fly north, over the Alps, into the deep, dark forests of Gaul and Britannia. Here, the web is different. It is not made of stone roads and silver coins. It is made of roots and branches. Picture this. You are standing in a clearing in an ancient oak forest. It is deep winter. The snow is piled high, blue-white in the moonlight. The silence here is heavy, muffled by the trees. You are a druid. You are the keeper of the calendar for your people. You are looking up at a massive oak tree. It is bare, skeletal, looking dead against the gray sky. But high up in the branches, you see a ball of green, mistletoe. To us, it's a plastic decoration we kiss under. To you, the druid, it is a miracle. How can this plant be green and alive when the mighty oak, the king of the forest, appears dead? It must possess the spirit of life itself. It must hold the soul of the tree during the long sleep of winter. You climb the tree. You cut the mistletoe with a golden sickle. You catch it in a white cloth before it touches the ground. If it touches the ground, it loses its power. This, too, is a system. It is a system of meaning. The people of the North rely on you to tell them when to plant, when to harvest, and when to celebrate the solstice, or Yule, as the Germanic tribes will call it. They rely on you to mediate between the freezing cold reality of winter and the hope of spring. If the Druids were to disappear, if the oral traditions were broken, the people would be spiritually lost in the dark. They wouldn't know the dates, they wouldn't know the rituals. The web of their culture would dissolve. The fragile vibration. Let's return to Rome. The night of Saturnalia is winding down. You are lying in your bed, the heating system is humming beneath the floor. You can smell the faint lingering scent of that cinnamon and frankincense. You feel connected to the whole world. You feel that the emperor in his palace, and the soldier on the border, and the merchant in India are all holding hands, keeping you safe. But a web is a funny thing. It is incredibly strong, but if you cut just a few key strands, the tension collapses. The whole thing goes slack. What happens if the climate cools just a few degrees and the wheat harvest in Egypt fails? What happens if a new disease appears that travels along those super efficient Roman roads, moving at the speed of trade? What happens if the silver in the mines runs out and the coins in your purse become worthless? The web is taut. It is singing with tension. It is vibrating with the energy of millions of lives. But in the distance, barely audible, a thread just snapped. Maybe it was a tax collector in a province who decided to steal a little more than usual. Maybe it was a border guard who fell asleep. Maybe it was a rat climbing onto a ship in the Black Sea, carrying a flea that carries a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. The system is perfect. The system is efficient. The system is doomed. So, as you drift deeper into the velvet darkness, think about the invisible threads that hold your own life together, the water in the pipes, the electricity in the wires, the quiet, boring miracles. We are about to watch them unravel. We are about to see what happens when the machine stops. The silver that turned to copper. The fire in the hearth has burned down a little. The bright leaping flames of the early evening have settled into a steady glowing bed of coals. The room is warmer now, but the shadows in the corners are stretching out, reaching a little further across the floor. We have seen the golden age. We have marveled at the invisible web that connected the world. But now the season is changing. Tonight, we move from the high noon of the empire into the long golden afternoon. The sun is still shining, but the quality of the light is different. It is thinner. There is a haze on the horizon. History rarely happens with a bang. We think of the fall of Rome or the end of an era as a cliff edge. One day everything is fine, the next day the barbarians are at the gate. But that is not how it feels when you are living through it. Decay, at first, feels like an inconvenience. It feels like a bad run of luck. It feels like a whisper that you can choose to ignore if you turn the music up loud enough. Tonight, we are going to listen to that whisper. We are going to stand in the marketplaces and the fields of the 3rd century, and we are going to notice the things that the people of the time tried very hard not to see. Picture this. You are a merchant in a small Roman town in Gaul, modern-day France. The year is roughly 235 AD. It is a gray November morning. The sky is a flat slate color heavy with unshed rain. You are standing at your counter, rubbing your hands together to keep them warm. You are counting the takings from the day before. You open your leather purse and pour the coins out onto the wooden table. Clink, clink, clink. The sound is wrong. 20 years ago, when you poured out a bag of denarii, the silver standard of the world, it rang with a clear, bell-like singing tone. It was the sound of pure silver. It was the sound of trust. But today the sound is duller. It is a flat thud. You pick up a coin. It features the profile of the current emperor. You rub it with your thumb. You've done this 1,000 times out of habit. But lately you've noticed something disturbing. Under the friction of your thumb, the silver shine is wearing away. Beneath the gleaming surface, there is a dull, reddish-brown metal peeking through. Copper. The emperor has been mixing the metals to pay for the wars, to pay for the lavish games. The government has been watering down the wine. They are minting millions of coins, but putting less silver in each one. This is the great inflation of the ancient world. To you, it doesn't feel like macroeconomics. It feels like theft. It feels like the world is becoming less real. A loaf of bread that cost 2 denarii last year now costs 4. The olive oil is twice the price, but the bottle is the same size. You feel a low-level anxiety in your gut, a sense that the solid ground beneath your feet is turning into mud. But you shake your head. You sweep the coins back into the bag. It's just a temporary fluctuation, you tell yourself. Rome is eternal. The emperor knows what he is doing. You engage in the most human of all activities, normalization. You adjust your expectations downward and you carry on. The sky is closing in. Walk with me now, out of the town and into the countryside. You are a farmer. Your family has worked this land for 5 generations. You know the soil like you know the back of your hand. You know exactly when the first frost should come. You know exactly when the spring rains should stop. But the calendar in your head no longer matches the reality in the sky. Historians and climatologists now call this the transition from the Roman climate optima period of warm, stable weather to the late antique Little Ice Age. But you don't know those terms, you just know that it is cold. It's not a dramatic freeze, it's just that the winter hangs on for 2 weeks longer than it should. The spring is wetter. The wheat, which needs dry heat to ripen, is rotting in the fields. You look at the vines. The grapes are smaller this year, sour. You look at the sky. It seems permanently overcast, a milky white haze. There have been volcanic eruptions thousands of miles away, throwing dust into the stratosphere, dimming the sun. This strikes a deep, primal chord of terror in you. Remember, your holidays, Saturnalia, Sol Invictus, Yule, are all based on the promise that the sun will return. You light the bonfires to call it back. But what if the magic is failing? You perform the rituals with a little more desperation this year. When you sacrifice the goat, you check the entrails with shaking hands. When you light the Yule log, you make sure it is the biggest one you can find. You need the heat. You need to remind the sun of its job. The history of Christmas is shifting here. It is no longer just a celebration of plenty. It is becoming a plea for survival. The darkness is not just a metaphor for the night. It is a physical reality encroaching on your food supply, the canary in the coal mine. Let's go to the border. The frontier. You are a Roman centurion stationed at a fort along the Danube River. You represent the might of the empire. Your armor is polished. Your sword is sharp. But look at the men in your unit. Half of them aren't Romans. They are mercenary. They are men from the tribes across the river, hired to fight for Rome because there aren't enough Roman citizens signing up anymore. And look at the fort itself. Walk along the stone wall. Look closely at the masonry. There's a crack running down the side of the watchtower. Weeds are growing in the mortar. 10 years ago, a team of engineers would have come from the capital to fix this within a week. But you sent a request for repairs 6 months ago. No one came. The letter probably got lost. Or maybe the bureaucrat who read it didn't have the budget. Or maybe the stone was stolen to build a villa for a governor. So, you patch the wall with timber and mud. It looks ugly. It looks weak. It will hold, you say. Across the river in the dark forests of Germania, the eyes watching you are sharp. They see the mud patch. They see the rusted hinges on the gate. They see that the giant is tired. They don't attack, not yet. They just test the perimeter. A raid here, a stolen cow there. They are like water searching for a crack in a dam. The invisible sickness. There's one more ghost haunting this era. You are back in the city. You are walking past a house that is boarded up. A symbol is painted on the door. You cross the street to avoid it. You pull your cloak up over your nose. This is the Antonine Plague, and later the Plague of Cyprian. It wasn't the Black Death. It didn't wipe out half the world, but it was a slow, grinding fever that took 10% here, 20% there. It took the cobbler, it took the tax collector. It took the only man in town who knew how to repair the aqueduct valves. This is the tragedy of the loss of knowledge. When that engineer died, he didn't write down his secrets. The knowledge died with him. Now the water pressure in the fountains is a little lower. The public baths aren't quite as hot. The invisible web we talked about in part 2 is losing its strands, but the most dangerous thing is not the disease itself. It is the silence. You notice that the marketplace is quieter. There are fewer stalls. The ships from India are arriving less frequently. The Amazon Prime delivery is delayed. First by a week, then by a month. Then, the item is just out of stock. The cognitive dissonance. And yet, tonight as you drift towards sleep, visualize the banquet hall. Despite the bad money, despite the cold weather, despite the plague, the party goes on. In fact, the party is louder than ever. Humans have a mechanism called cognitive dissonance. When reality becomes too painful, we double down on the fantasy. If the world is getting darker, we will light more candles. If the food is scarce, we will feast harder on what remains. The festivals of the 3rd century became frantic, the frantic gaiety of people dancing on the deck of a sinking ship. You are there in the hall. The wine is flowing, even if it's slightly watered down. The music is playing. You are laughing with your friends. The empire has stood for 1,000 years, someone shouts, raising a goblet. It will stand for 1,000 more. Io Saturnalia, you shout back. You want to believe it. You need to believe it. Because the alternative, that this system, this safety, this warmth is temporary, is too terrifying to contemplate. But outside the window, the snow is falling harder than it ever has before. The wolves are howling, and for the first time, they sound like they are right outside the city gates. The whisper is becoming a murmur. The murmur is about to become a roar. The night the river stopped. Let the blankets settle around you. Imagine them not just as fabric, but as a shield, a barrier between you and the cold wind we are about to step into. We have watched the golden age of Rome shimmer in the sunlight. We have traced the invisible web of trade that brought spices to the table. We have heard the faint, unsettling whisper of decay in the copper coins and the coughing neighbors. But whispers eventually must either fade away or become a scream. Tonight, we witness the screaming point. We are going to witness the moment when the unseen cracks we talked about finally break open. In history, this is often taught as a confusing mess of dates and battles. But for the people living through it, it wasn't abstract. It was a weather event. It was a sudden, violent change in the atmospheric pressure of their lives. Tonight, we travel to the exact night the ancient world broke, And ironically, tragically, it happened on New Year's Eve. Picture this. It is December 31st. The year is 406 AD. You are a Roman sentry standing on the wall of a fortress in the city of Mogontiet-Geokum, what we now know as Mainz, Germany. For 400 years, this spot has been the edge of the world. To your back is civilization, heated floors, wine shops, paved roads, libraries, and the law. To your front, across the wide gray expanse of the Rhine River, is the wild, the land of the tribes, the unknown. The Rhine has always been the guardian. It is a massive, rushing torrent of water that acts as a natural moat. No army can cross it easily. It is the reason you sleep soundly at night. It is the reason the people in the town behind you are currently roasting pork and drinking spiced wine, celebrating the end of the year. But tonight, the guardian is silent. The temperature has dropped to a level that defies living memory. It is a cold so profound it feels like it has weight. It presses against your eyeballs. It freezes the moisture in your nose instantly. You look out at the river. Usually you would hear the rushing sound of water, the churn of the current. But tonight, there is only a strange popping creak. The river has frozen solid. This is the Black Swan event, the statistical anomaly, the thing that the engineers didn't plan for, the thing that the politicians didn't think could happen. The water, the unbreachable wall of the empire, has turned into a bridge. The view from the other side. Now cast your mind across that ice. You are a vandal. History has treated you unkindly. It has turned your name into a word for destruction. Vandalism. It paints you as a mindless monster. But you are not a monster. You are a refugee. You are standing on the east bank of the Rhine, shivering in furs that are matted with ice. You are holding the hand of your child. Behind you are your wife, your elderly parents, and a wagon containing everything you own. A few cooking pots, a bag of seed grain, a blanket. You are not attacking Rome because you hate it. You are running. Behind you, far to the east, a new terror has arrived, the Huns. They are a force of nature, moving across the steppes like a wildfire, displacing everyone in their path. They have burned your village. They have pushed the Alans, who pushed the Suevi, who pushed you. You are part of a massive, desperate migration, a domino effect of humanity. For weeks, you have been trapped against the river. You could see the lights of the Roman city on the other side, the smoke rising from their chimneys. You could smell their bread, but the water stopped you. But then, the temperature dropped. The gods of winter built you a road. You step onto the ice. It is slick, dark, and terrifying. You can see the black water moving slowly beneath the surface. It groans under your weight. You take another step, then another. Tens of thousands of people are stepping onto the ice with you. It is a slow momission avalanche of humanity. The convergence. Back on the wall, the sentry hears it first. It isn't a war cry. It isn't the sound of drum. It is the sound of thousands of boots crunching on snow. The sound of wooden wagon wheels rumbling over uneven ice. The sound of babies crying in the biting wind. The sentry lights a torch and holds it over the parapet. The light flickers across the frozen river. And there, illuminated in the orange glow, is the nightmare. The river is black with people, a sea of humanity, stretching as far as the eye can see, walking across the water. The perfect storm has made landfall. This isn't just an invasion, it is a systems failure. The legions that were supposed to be here, They were recalled to Italy to fight a civil war. The diplomatic treaties that were supposed to keep the tribes happy, they were broken by corrupt bureaucrats who stole the gift money. The walls, they haven't been repaired in 50 years. The sentry blows his horn. The sound is lonely and thin in the freezing air. The collapse of the Amazon Prime network. Let's zoom out. Let's look at the map of Europe as if it were a circuit board. As the Vandals, Alans, and Suevi pour across the Rhine, they cut the wires. Imagine you are that wealthy merchant in the villa from part 1. You are hundreds of miles away, in Gaul. You are safe, you think. You are waiting for a shipment of pottery from the north and a shipment of tin from Britain. But the shipments don't arrive. Instead, you get a letter. It is hasty, blotted with ink. The road is closed, it said. The bridge is burned. Panic is a slow contagion. At first, it's just rumors. Did you hear about mites? Did you hear about worms? Then, the goods disappear from the shelves. Suddenly, you can't buy olive oil. The price of wheat triples overnight. The complex financial instruments, the loans, the credits, the futures contracts, evaporate because the banks in the north have been looted. The global economy of the ancient world fractures into 1,000 tiny isolated islands. You realize, with a sinking feeling in your stomach, that you don't know how to make your own shoes. You don't know how to smith your own tools. You are a specialized cog in a machine that has just been smashed. The visceral horror, gentle. This is the scary part of the story, but we will view it through the lens of history, which softens the blow. The horror of the 5th century wasn't necessarily about bloodshed every day. It was about disorientation. Imagine waking up tomorrow and the internet is gone. The police don't answer the phone, the grocery stores are empty, and there is a group of people speaking a language you don't understand camping in your town square. It is the horror of the unfamiliar. The Roman citizen looks out his window and sees his world dissolving. The statues are toppled not out of malice, but because the metal inside them is needed for weapons. The beautiful marble facings of the buildings are stripped away because they need lime for mortar. The city is being cannibalized. The lights of the midwinter festival are still burning, but the mood has shifted entirely. You are no longer lighting a candle to celebrate the unconquered sun. You are lighting a candle because you are terrified of what is in the dark. The holiday has lost its triumphant golden major key. It has shifted into a minor key. It has become melancholy. The view from the villa. Let's end this chapter in a quiet room. You are a Roman noblewoman. Your husband is gone, fighting somewhere in the east. You are in the winter room of your house. The Holocaust heating system, that marvel of warm floors, is cold. The slaves who knew how to chop the wood and feed the furnace have fled. You are wrapped in layers of wool. You are wearing your entire wardrobe. You look at the mosaic on the floor. It depicts Orpheus playing his lyre to the animals. It is a symbol of order, of harmony, of civilization taming the wild. But there is a crack running through Orpheus's face. Outside, the wind is howling. You hear the sound of a wagon passing on the road. Maybe refugees, maybe invaders. You don't know. You take a small clay lamp. You light it. The flame is small, wavering in the draft. You shield it with your hand. This is the birth of the Christmas spirit as we really know it. It isn't the boisterous party of Saturnalia anymore. It is this moment. The protection of the light. The world outside is chaotic, cold, and broken. The systems have failed. The armies have fled. The only thing you have left is this one small circle of warmth that you can create yourself. You pull your children closer. You tell them a story. You try to make the darkness feel less absolute. The great breaking has happened. The storm has swept away the structure of the world, and now we are left with the ruins. As you drift deeper into sleep, feel the contrast. You are safe. Your walls are solid. Your heat is working. The storm of 406 AD is a distant memory, a ghost story that cannot touch you. But the people of that time had to learn a new way to live. They had to learn how to survive when the view from the street window changed from a bustling city to a frightening void. How did they cope? How did the human mind adjust to the end of the world? The world shrinks to a room. The storm we watched in the last chapter, the breaking of the river, the shattering of the borders has passed. The thunder has rolled away into the distance. Now we are left with the silence that follows. Tonight, we are not looking at maps. We are not looking at the movements of armies. Tonight, we are going to sit in a chair by a window and watch how the end of an era feels to a single human heart. History books talk about collapse as if buildings fell down overnight, but for the people living through it, it was softer than that. It was slower. It was a series of small, quiet subtractions. It is the story of a world that didn't explode, but simply faded. Like a tapestry left out in the sun too long, the colors just washed away, thread by thread, until the picture was gone. Tonight, I want you to feel the texture of that fading world. I want you to feel the poignant, bittersweet beauty of holding on to something that you know is slipping through your fingers. Picture this. The year is 460 AD. You are a man named Paulinus. You live in a large estate in what is now southern France. You are a Roman noble. You still wear the toga, though it is frayed at the hem. You still speak Latin, the language of Virgil and Cicero. You still consider yourself a citizen of the greatest empire the earth has ever known. But the empire hasn't sent a mail carrier in 3 years. You are sitting in your study. It is a beautiful room lined with shelves of scrolls. But the air is cold. The hawk of that magnificent underfloor heating system is broken. A pipe burst last winter, and there is no one with the skill to fix it. The specialized ceramics required to patch it simply aren't made anymore. So, you have adapted. You have laid heavy bear skins and wolf pelts over the beautiful mosaics. You wear trousers now, barbarian pants. Under your robe, you have compromised with the cold. You look out the window. Decades ago, this view would have been bustling. You would have seen carriages rolling down the paved road to the city of Arles. You would have seen messengers galloping by. You would have seen carts piled high with grain for the legions. Now the road is quiet. Grass is growing up between the paving stones. The straight, sharp lines of Roman engineering are being softened by nature. The road is still there, but it feels sleepy, forgotten. The economics of loss. Let's talk about breakfast. This morning you sat down to eat. In the old days, the days your father told you about, breakfast was a global affair. There was grain from Egypt. There was fish sauce from Spain. There was wine from Italy. Today, you ate a piece of hard barley bread. It was grown in the field right outside your window. The flour was ground in a hand mill in your own kitchen. You reached for the olive oil to dip your bread. You tipped the jar. Nothing came out. This is a specific, sharp pang of loss. For centuries, your family bought olive oil from a merchant who brought it from the great groves of North Africa. It came in amphorae, clay jars stamped with the maker's mark. It was cheap. It was everywhere. But the Vandals, the people we saw crossing the ice, have taken North Africa. The shipping lanes are closed. The pirates rule the sea. Suddenly, olive oil is a luxury item. It is liquid gold. You have to ration it. You save it for special occasions. This is how the world shrinks. It isn't a dramatic disaster. It's just that one day you go to the market and the stall that sold the blue pottery is empty. You ask, when will more come? The vendor shrugs. Next month, he says. But next month comes and the stall is gone. Then the oil disappears. Then the papyrus paper becomes too expensive to buy, so you stop writing letters. Then the silk wears out and you replace it with rough wool. Your world, which used to stretch from Scotland to Syria, now stretches only as far as you can walk. You're experiencing the localization of life, the psychological shift. There is a letter on your desk. You've been writing it for a week. It is addressed to your friend, Sidonius, who lives 100 miles away. In the old days, 100 miles was a day's journey. Now it is an expedition. You look at the ink on the page. You are writing about literature, about poetry. You are trying to keep the flame alive. You and your friends are playing a game of pretend. You pretend that the Senate still meets. You pretend that the Emperor in Ravenna is still in charge. But deep down, you know the truth. There is a new psychological state taking hold of you. Survivalism. You walk through your house. You look at the silver spoons on the dining table. A thought crosses your mind. A thought that would have been alien to your grandfather. If the Visigoths come, where will I hide these? You have become a hoarder. You save every scrap of metal. You save every nail. You don't throw anything away because you don't know if you can ever replace it. This mindset changes you. It makes you more insular, more suspicious. You stop looking at the horizon and start looking at your perimeter. You are building a shell around yourself and your family. The dinner party. Tonight, you are hosting a dinner. You have invited the local warlord. He is a Visigoth. He is the new authority in the region. 50 years ago, a man like him would have been a prisoner of war. Now, he is the guest of honor. This is the accommodation. This is how you survive. He enters your home. He is big, loud, and smells of leather and horses. He speaks a broken, clumsy Latin. He admires your library, though you suspect he cannot read the scrolls. You pour him the last of your good wine. You smile. You are charming. You discuss the security of the valley. It is a surreal dance. You are the representative of the old dying world, refined, educated, defenseless. He is the representative of the new world, raw, violent, vital. You watch him eat. You realize that power has shifted. The abstract power of the law has been replaced by the concrete power of the sword. He promises to protect your estate from bandits. In exchange, you will give him a portion of your harvest. You have just invented feudalism, though you don't know the word yet. You have traded your status as a citizen for the safety of a vassal. The view at night, The dinner is over. The guests have gone. You step out onto the balcony. The night air is freezing. You look out over the valley. In your childhood, this valley was dotted with lights. The lamps of other villas, the torches of travelers on the road, it looked like a reflection of the stars. Tonight the valley is dark. One by one the lights have gone out. The neighbors have moved away, or died, or fled to the fortified cities. The villas are empty, their roofs caved in, their gardens overgrown. The darkness is reclaiming the land, but there is a strange peace in it. The noise of the empire, the constant clamor of ambition, politics, and war is gone. The silence is profound. You hear an owl hooting in the distance. You hear the wind rustling through the overgrown vineyards. You realize that the world is not ending. The earth is still here. The seasons still turn. The sun will still rise tomorrow. It is just a simpler world, a quieter world. You wrap your wool cloak tighter around your shoulders. You feel the weight of the rough fabric. It is scratchy, not like the silk you used to wear, but it is warm. It works. You are adapting. Humans are incredibly good at adapting. You blow out the lamp. You are saving the oil. You step back into the room and close the shutters. You are not a Roman senator anymore. You are just a man protecting his family in the dark. And as you lay your head down on the pillow, you find that sleep comes easily. There is no point in worrying about the empire tonight. There is only the harvest, the fire, and the safety of these four walls. The scale of history has shrunk to the size of a single room. And in that small space, you can finally rest. The silence of the stone. The room around you is still. The modern world outside, the traffic, the street lights, the humming of the refrigerator has faded into the background. We are traveling deeper into the twilight of the ancient world. We have seen the money fail. We have seen the borders dissolve. We have sat in the cold room of a noble house, watching the lamp oil run low. But tonight, I want to talk about something even more fundamental. I want to talk about the physical shell of civilization, the stone, the brick, the water. We tend to think of ruins as things that were destroyed by cannonballs or fires, but most ruins are not made by violence. They are made by neglect. They are made by the slow, relentless, quiet pressure of time. Tonight we are going to watch the great machine of Rome stop moving. We are going to hear the gears grind to a halt. It is a story of silence. It is the story of a city that just got tired. Picture this. It is the year 537 AD. You are standing in the Campagna, the countryside just outside the walls of Rome. It is a crisp, clear morning. The grass is wet with dew. Above you, towering over the landscape like the spine of a sleeping dragon, is an aqueduct. For 500 years, this structure, the Aqua Claudia, has been the artery of the city. It is a miracle of engineering, a river raised into the sky on arches of stone, carrying millions of gallons of fresh, cold mountain water into the heart of the metropolis. Stand underneath one of the great arches. Put your hand on the travertine stone. It is cold, rough, and covered in a velvety layer of green moss. Now listen. For 5 centuries, standing here would have sounded like standing next to a waterfall. The roar of the water rushing overhead was the background noise of the empire. It was the sound of life. But today, there is only a trickle. Drip, drip, drip. The Goths have besieged the city, yes. They have cut some of the channels. But the real enemy is inside the pipes. It is a silent enemy, calcium carbonate. Over the decades, the mineral deposits from the water have built up inside the channel, layer upon layer of white, rock-hard sinter. It chokes the flow. In the old days, there was a specialized workforce, the aquarii, whose only job was to scrub the pipes. They were the chimney sweeps of the water system. But the aquarii are gone. The state couldn't pay them. The knowledge of how to access the maintenance shafts was lost, so the artery clogged. Without the roar of the water, the landscape feels strangely empty. The silence is heavy. It is the sound of a giant whose heart has stopped beating. The city of fountains runs dry. Walk with me now. Follow the dry path of the aqueduct into the city itself. Rome was once the city of fountains. Water was everywhere. It splashed in the plazas. It gushed in the public baths. It flushed the sewers. But now the fountains are dry bowls filled with dead leaves. The bronze spouts, shaped like lions or dolphins, stare open-mouthed at the sky, thirsty. Imagine you are a resident of this new, quieter Rome. You walk to the baths of Caracalla. This used to be a palace of the people. It was a cathedral of hygiene. It had hot pools, steam rooms, gyms, libraries. It was where you went to feel human. You step inside the vast main hall. The roof is still there, soaring hundreds of feet above you, covered in gold leaf that is peeling away in long, curling strips. But the pools are empty. The furnaces that heated the water are cold. The intricate system of pipes beneath the floor is dry. The sound of your footsteps echoes perfectly in the vast, empty space. Clack, clack, clack. It is hauntingly beautiful in a melancholy way. Dust motes dance in the shafts of light coming through the high windows. Birds have built nests in the niches where statues of emperors once stood. You realize that without the water, the building has no purpose. It is just a hollow shell, a dinosaur skeleton left on the beach. This is the maintenance crisis. Civilization is high maintenance. It requires constant energy to keep entropy at bay. When that energy is withdrawn, when the money stops, when the workers leave, nature immediately begins to take it back. The broken windows. Let's go to the Forum, the center of the world. The Curia, the Senate House, is still standing, but look closely at the roof. A tile blew off in a storm 3 years ago. Just one tile. In 100 AD, a slave would have been on a ladder within an hour to replace it. In 537 AD, no one notices. Or if they notice, they don't have a ladder long enough. Or they don't have a replacement tile because the kiln that made them has shut down, so the hole remains. Rain gets in, it soaks the timber beams. Rot begins. A fungus starts to grow in the dark, warm wood. Next winter, another tile falls. Then a beam gives way. Then a section of the roof collapses. This is the slow motion crash. You are watching the broken windows theory on a civilizational scale. Because the roof is leaking, the mosaic floor below gets ruined. Because the floor is ruined, people stop using the building. Because people stop using the building, they start stealing the marble from the walls to burn for lime. The building is being cannibalized. You see a man prying a slab of marble off the podium where Cicero once gave speeches. He isn't a vandal. He is just a farmer who needs to build a pigsty, and this is the only stone available. The grandeur of the past is becoming the raw material for the survival of the present. The loss of the recipe. There is a deeper tragedy here, a tragedy of the mind. Picture this. You are a master builder in this fading city. You have been hired by a bishop to repair a church wall. You stand before the mixing trough. You have lime. You have water. You have sand. But you are frustrated. You are trying to make concrete. The ancestors, the Romans of the Golden Age, built harbors that could withstand the ocean for 1,000 years. They had a secret. They mixed volcanic ash, pozzolana, into the mortar. It created a chemical reaction that made the concrete harder than rock, even underwater. You know of this concrete. You can see it all around you. The Pantheon is made of it. But you don't know the recipe. Did they use seawater or fresh water? What was the ratio of ash to lime? Where did they get the ash? You try to mix it, but it crumbles. It doesn't set right. You feel a profound sense of inadequacy. You are living in the shadow of giants, and you have forgotten their magic spells. So you build the wall with mud and brick. It is crooked. It is weak. It will fall down in 50 years. This is the great forgetting. It isn't just that the buildings are falling down. It's that the knowledge of how to keep them up has evaporated. The libraries are closed. The scrolls are rotting. The oral traditions are broken. The lights of the intellect are dimming, one by one. The softening of the world. And yet, as you walk home through the twilight, there is a strange lack of anger in the air. The city is becoming pastoral. Where the great gladiatorial school used to be, someone has planted a vegetable garden. Rows of onions and cabbages are growing in the dust of the arena. In the forum, cows are grazing. They wander between the triumphal arches, chewing the long grass that pushes up through the cracks in the pavement. The sharp, hard, geometric lines of Rome, the straight roads, the square blocks, the vertical columns, are being softened. Greenery is wrapping around the stone. Ivy is blurring the edges. The city is returning to the earth. There is a peace in this. The frenetic energy of the empire is gone. The constant demand for growth, for conquest, for more, has been replaced by the slow, cyclical rhythm of nature. Night falls. Because the aqueducts are dry, there are no public baths to go to. Because the oil is expensive, there are no streetlights. Rome, the city of light, goes pitch black. You return to your small home, built into the side of a ruined theater. You light a single tallow candle. It smells of animal fat, not the sweet beeswax of the old days, but the flame is the same. You sit close to the fire. The world outside is silent, no carts, no water, no shouting. Just the wind whistling through the empty arches of the Colosseum. The infrastructure has failed. The machine has stopped. But you are still here. You are warm. You have a family. You have a story to tell. As you drift off tonight, think of that silence. It isn't a scary silence. It is the silence of a clock that has finally stopped ticking. The pressure is off. The workday of the ancient world is over. It is time for history to sleep. The golden cage, the silence of the ruined aqueduct is behind us now. We have walked through the quiet, moss-covered streets of the fading city. But history is rarely a straight line down. It is a series of jagged peaks and valleys. Before the final silence settled in, there was a moment of frantic, desperate noise. There was a moment when the Empire tried to claw its way back from the edge. Tonight, we explore the tragedy of the fix. We often think that civilizations die because nobody tried to save them. But the truth is often more heartbreaking. Rome didn't die for lack of trying. It died because of the cure. Tonight, we are going to look at the strongman solution. We are going to feel the crushing weight of a government trying to legislate reality, and we are going to watch how the very attempt to save the Golden Age ended up building the walls of the Middle Ages. Picture this. It is the year 301 AD. You are standing in the marketplace of a provincial capital. The air is tense. It is not the joyful chaos of the Saturnalia market we visited in part 1. It is a nervous, hushed atmosphere. In the center of the square, a group of soldiers is erecting a massive stone slab. It is heavy, polished marble, engraved with thousands of lines of text, painted in red so they can be read from a distance. This is the edict on maximum prices. The Emperor Diocletian, a stern, military man who saved the empire from immediate collapse, has decided that the problem is greed. He believes that if he simply commands the economy to stabilize, it will obey. You step closer to the stone. You run your finger over the cold letters. It lists every item imaginable. A measure of wheat, 100 denarii. A pair of boots, 50 denarii. And at the bottom, in bold letters, the punishment for selling anything for more than the listed price. Death. It feels strong. It feels decisive. It feels like someone is finally taking charge. But imagine you are a baker. You go back to your shop. You look at your flour. The harvest was bad this year. Remember the cooling climate from part 3? The farmer who sold you the grain had to charge you 120 denarii just to cover his costs. You look at the stone slab. It says you must sell your bread for a price based on wheat costing 100. If you bake the bread, you lose money. You will starve. If you sell the bread for what it's worth, you will be executed. So, you do the only logical thing. You close the shop. You lock the doors. You hide the flour. You stop baking. Across the empire, the lights go out in the shop windows. The rescue has caused a shortage. The market disappears. The economy moves into the shadows, into the back alleys, into the black market. The government tried to freeze time, but they only succeeded in freezing the flow of food. The golden handcuffs. Now, shift your perspective. You are a local town councilor, a decurion. In the old days, this was a position of honor. You were the mayor. You organized the holiday feasts. You sat in the front row at the theater. But now, the emperor needs money. The army has doubled in size to fight the barbarians. The bureaucracy has tripled in size to manage the prices. The tax bill arrives on your desk. It is staggering, but here is the trap. The emperor has decreed that the town council is personally responsible for the taxes of the entire town. If your neighbors can't pay, you have to pay for them out of your own pocket. You look at your ledger. You are ruined. You are bleeding gold to support a system that is failing. You think, I will quit, I will resign, but you can't. The new laws say that your job is hereditary. You are locked in. You are a prisoner of your own status. The golden age has become a golden cage. This is the tragedy of the bureaucratic squeeze. To save the empire, the state has crushed the middle class, the very people who made the empire worth saving. the great escape. So, what do you do when the city becomes a trap? When the taxes are too high, the rules are too strict, and the food is too scarce? You run. Imagine you are leaving the city. It is early morning, a gray winter dawn. You have packed a cart. You are leaving your townhouse, the place where your family has lived for 3 generations. You are walking out through the city gates. You pass the tax collector's booth. You keep your head down. You are heading for the countryside. Specifically, you are heading to the estate of a powerful, wealthy landowner, a senator, who is rich enough to ignore the emperor's laws. He lives in a villa that is more like a fortress. He has his own private guards. He grows his own food. He is off the grid. You arrive at his gate. You make a deal. I will work your land, you say. I will give you half of what I grow. In exchange, you protect me from the tax collector. You protect me from the barbarians. He agrees. You have just traded your freedom for security. You are no longer a Roman citizen. You are becoming a colon, a serf. You are tied to the land. You will never vote again. You will never travel again. But you will eat. The silent revolution. As you settle into this new life in the countryside, the landscape of history changes. The great interconnected cities, the hubs of the invisible web, begin to empty out. The population disperses. The world becomes local again. It becomes cellular. The history of Christmas shifts here too. The great public festivals of Rome, the massive parades, the games in the Colosseum fade away. They are too expensive. Instead, the celebration moves inside the walls of the great estates. It becomes the manorial feast. Imagine the great hall of the villa. The Lord sits at the high table, a tradition that will last for 1,000 years. You, the worker, sit at the lower tables. There is a fire roaring in the hearth. There is roasted pork. There is holly on the walls. It is cozy. It is safe. But it is small. The vast cosmopolitan world where you could buy pepper from India and silk from China is gone. The horizon has shrunk to the edge of the Lord's property. The unintended consequence. The irony is bitter. Diocletian and Constantine tried to save the empire by tightening their grip, but by squeezing too hard, they caused the sand to slip through their fingers. They wanted to preserve the Roman economy, but they accidentally created the feudal system. They turned a society of mobile trading citizens into a society of stationary, frightened serfs. As you drift deeper into sleep, feel the walls closing in, but in a protective way. You are in the great hall now. The doors are barred against the night. The chaos of the market cannot touch you here. The chaos of the market cannot touch you here. You have traded the wide, dangerous world for a small, warm room. It is a heavy price to pay. But as the winter wind howls outside and the snow piles up against the door, you look at the fire and you think, at least I am safe. The rescue failed to save the empire, but it succeeded in creating a shelter. And in the long, cold night that is coming, a shelter is the only thing that matters. The garden in the stone. The fire has burned down to embers now. The room is dim, lit only by the soft, pulsing glow of the coals. We have traveled a long road together. We stood in the gleaming sun of the high empire. We felt the chill of the first frost. We watched the lights flicker and fade as the great machine of civilization ground to a halt. Now we have reached the bottom of the valley. Tonight we are going to return to the place where we started, but time has done its work. The clock has moved forward, not by years, but by centuries. We are stepping into the 7th century. History books often paint this era in shades of terrifying black. They call it the Dark Ages. They speak of chaos and misery. But tonight, I want to show you something else. I want to show you the peace of the ruins. There is a specific kind of quiet that falls over a place when the frantic energy of ambition has finally left the building. It is the quiet of a forest reclaiming a house. It is the silence of a library where the roof has opened to the sky. Tonight, we walk through the ghost town that was once the capital of the world. Picture this. You are standing on the Palatine Hill again. Remember part 1? Remember the saffron robes, the smell of roasting honey cakes, the noise of the Times Square of the ancient world? Close your eyes and let that image dissolve. Open them again. It is a spring morning. The air is sweet, smelling of wildflowers, wet earth, and fennel. You are standing on the same balcony, but the marble balustrade is gone. It was taken years ago to build a church altar. The floor beneath your feet is cracked, and through the fissures, thick tufts of grass are pushing up, reclaiming the stone. You look out over the city. It is no longer a sea of terracotta roofs. It is a landscape of green hills, punctuated by strange white crags. Those crags are the ruins. The great temples of the Forum are still there, but they are drowning in earth. The Tiber River, unchecked by the old engineers, has flooded again and again, depositing layers of silt. The ground level has risen 10, maybe 15 feet. The triumphal arches, where emperors once rode with their captives, are buried up to their waists in mud. Trees are growing out of the tops of the basilicas. Vines cascade down the sides of the Senate House like green waterfalls. It is breathtakingly beautiful. It is a romantic landscape, a painting of melancholy and nature intertwined. But look closer. This is not an empty world. Down in the Forum, what used to be the center of global finance, you see movement. You see a cow. It is a white ox chewing slowly on the long grass that grows over the spot where Julius Caesar was cremated. A boy is watching it. He is barefoot, wearing a simple tunic of rough gray wool. He holds a long stick. To the historians of the 19th century, this boy is a tragic figure, a savage living in the squalor of a fallen giant. But look at him. He doesn't look tragic. He looks bored. He looks peaceful. He doesn't know he is living in a dark age. He doesn't know he is standing on the grave of an empire. To him, these giant broken stones are just geography. They are just the old mountains. He leans against a column that was once imported from Egypt at a cost of millions of denarii. He uses it as a backrest. It holds the heat of the sun. It is warm. Walk with the boy as he herds his ox. You pass the Colosseum. In the Golden Age, this was a factory of death. It was a place of noise, blood, and screaming crowds. Now it is silent, but it is alive in a new way. Look inside the arches. People are living here. The massive corridors of the arena have been walled up with timber and mud bricks. Families have turned the vomitoriums into apartments. A blacksmith has set up his forge in the tunnel where the gladiators used to wait. The arena floor, the sand that drank so much blood, is gone. In its place is a vegetable garden. There are rows of leeks, onions, and cabbages growing in the rich soil. A woman is hanging laundry on a line strung between two marble seats. This is the great adaptation. Humans are hermit crabs. When the big shell of the empire broke, we didn't die. We just found smaller shells to live in. We took the monumental and made it domestic. The Colosseum is no longer a symbol of imperial power. It is a fortress. It is a gated community. It keeps the bandits out. It keeps the wolves out. Walk further. You come to a lime kiln. This is the engine of the ghost city. A group of men are dragging a statue, a beautiful, lifelike marble senator, towards a furnace. You might feel a pang of horror. Don't destroy art, you want to scream. But pause. These men need mortar to build a wall. They need to fix the roof of the church. They don't have quarries anymore. They don't have ships to bring stone from Carrera. The statue is just rock. And the rock is needed to keep the living warm. They smash the statue. They burn it. They turn the history of the past into the glue of the present. This is the hard truth of survival. The past must be consumed to feed the future, but not all knowledge is lost. Walk towards the edge of the city. There is a building that is still intact. The roof is solid. The windows are shuttered. This is a monastery. In the sea of ruins, this is an island of order. Inside, the air smells of beeswax and parchment. It is quiet, but it is a busy quiet. The sound of scratching. Scritch, scritch, scritch. A monk is sitting at a desk. He is bent over a piece of vellum, calfskin. He is copying a text. Maybe it is the Bible. Maybe it is a grammar book by Donatus. Maybe, just maybe, it is a fragment of Virgil. He doesn't understand everything he is copying. The complex Latin of the High Empire is like a foreign language to him, but he copies it anyway. He is the time capsule. He is the reason we know anything about the Roman world today. He is the narrow bottleneck through which the knowledge of the past is being squeezed. He works by the light of a single oil lamp. Outside, the city is dark. The aqueducts are dry. The roads are broken. But here, in this circle of light, the thread remains unbroken. Night falls over the ghost town. The boy with the ox has gone home to his hut built inside the temple of Antoninus. The blacksmith in the Colosseum has banked his fire. The city sleeps. It is a deeper sleep than Rome ever knew in its prime. There are no carts rumbling on the cobblestones. There are no drunken revelers. The wind blows through the open arches of the Basilica of Maxentius. It makes a low, hollow sound. Ah, whoa, ah. Nature is wrapping the city in a green blanket. The roots of the trees are holding the stones together even as they break them apart. It is not a sad place. It is a resting place. The exhausted earth is lying fallow, recovering from the intense pressure of the Roman centuries. It is regenerating. As you drift off tonight, visualize this green ruin. Imagine the moss softening the hard edges of the stone. Imagine the flowers blooming in the cracks of the pavement. There is a lesson here. Nothing lasts forever in its original form. Everything changes. Everything breaks. But life, stubborn, quiet, simple life, always finds a way to grow in the cracks. The end of the world wasn't the end. It was just a change of management. The marble turned to mud, the gold turned to grain, and the shouting turned to silence. And in that silence, something new is waiting to be born. The wheel turns in the river. Leave the silent, moss-covered ruins of Rome behind you. Leave the white oxen grazing in the forum. That chapter is closed. The book of the ancient world has been shut and placed on the shelf. But the story isn't over. Tonight we watch the sequel begin. We often call the time that followed the collapse the Dark Ages. We imagine a time of ignorance where humanity stumbled around in the mud, forgetting everything they once knew. But that is a lie. Darkness, after all, is not just an absence of light. It is a soil. It is a place where seeds are planted. It is a place of germination. Tonight, we are going to see that the collapse of the Roman Empire wasn't a funeral. It was a compost heap. The rigid, heavy structures of the past broke down to feed something new, something greener, and something surprisingly ingenious. Tonight, we travel north. We leave the Mediterranean, the warm blue sea of the past, and we go to the heavy, wet, green forest of Northern Europe, the place where the modern world was actually born. Picture this. It is the year 800 AD. You are standing in a field in the Loire Valley, or perhaps the Rhineland. The air is different here. It is heavy with moisture. It smells of deep, rich loam, of rain, of rotting leaves and bursting growth. You are a peasant, but you are not the desperate, starving figure of the history books. You are a pioneer. Look at the ground at your feet. This isn't the sandy, dry soil of Italy. This is heavy clay. It is thick, sticky, and incredibly fertile, but it is stubborn. For 1,000 years, the Romans tried to farm this land and failed. Their light, wooden, scratch plows designed for the dry south just bounced off this heavy northern earth. They couldn't unlock the calories hidden in the mud. But you have a secret weapon. Look at the beast standing in front of you. It isn't a pair of oxen anymore. It is a team of horses. And they are pulling a machine that looks like a monster, the heavy plow. It is made of iron and heavy timber. It has a vertical knife, the coulter, to cut the turf, and a curved iron board, the mold board, to turn the soil over. You grab the handles. You shout to the horses. Crunch. You feel the vibration in your bones. This machine doesn't just scratch the surface. It tears the earth open. It flips the soil, burying the weeds and bringing the nutrients to the top. It is violent work. It is hard work. But as you look behind you, you see deep, rich furrows of black earth. This is the agricultural revolution. Because the empire fell, the center of gravity shifted north. And to survive in the north, you had to invent a better way to farm. This plow will double the food supply. It will feed the population boom that will build the cathedrals. You are not living in a decline. You are standing at the controls of a new technology that the Caesars never dreamed of. The engine of the riverbank. Listen. In the Roman days, the sound of industry was the sound of human groaning. If you wanted to grind grain into flour, you put 20 slaves on a wheel and made them push until they dropped. Slaves were cheap. Why invent a machine when you have human motors? But now, the slaves are gone. The supply chain of human misery has broken. Labor is scarce. Every pair of hands is precious, so you have to find a substitute for muscle. You hear a rhythmic creak splash, creak splash. You see a wooden building jutting out into the water. A massive wheel, covered in moss and algae, is turning slowly, relentlessly, driven by the current of the river. The watermill. Inside the mill, the air is filled with flour dust, floating like gold in the shafts of sunlight. The floor shakes with the power of the gears. The Romans had water wheels, but they treated them like toys. You, the medieval engineer, have treated them like a necessity. You have connected the wheel to a grindstone, but not just that. Across the valley, another wheel is powering a hammer to forge iron. Another is pounding wool to make cloth, fooling. You are witnessing the medieval industrial revolution. This is the great irony of the collapse. When the cheap labor vanished, humanity was forced to get smart. We had to harness the forces of nature, wind and water, to do the work for us. The Dark Age was actually the age where we learned to build machines to save our backs. The manor, the lifeboat, walk up the hill to the village. It is small. A cluster of thatched cottages, a stone church, and the Lord's manor house. This is the manor system. Modern people look at this and see feudalism, a system of oppression, and it was. You are bound to the land, you cannot leave. But tonight, look at it from the inside. The manor is a lifeboat. Outside in the woods, there are Vikings, there are Magyars, there are bandits. The world is dangerous, but inside the circle of the village, there's a deep, rhythmic security. You know everyone knows you. You work together in the fields, because the heavy plow requires 8 oxen, and no single family owns 8 oxen, so you must share. This creates a community tighter than anything in the anonymous cities of Rome. You walk into the great hall of the manor. It is evening. The Yule log is burning in the hearth, a tradition from the Germanic tribes that has blended seamlessly into the Christian Christmas. Hump and poop seret, up ablistai. The heat is immense. You are drinking ale because the water is unsafe and the wine trade from the south has collapsed. It is thick, warm, and nutritious. You sit on the benches. The Lord is there. He isn't a distant emperor in a palace 1,000 miles away. He is right there, eating the same meat, warming his hands at the same fire. If the Vikings come, he will stand in front of you with his sword, food for protection. It feels cozy. It feels like a bunker, yes, but a bunker stocked with stories, songs, and fire. The invention of time. There's one more sound in this village, a new sound, bong, bong, bong. It comes from the church tower. The Romans had sundials. They lived by the sun. If it was cloudy, they guessed the time, but the monks in the monastery needed to pray at exact intervals. Even in the dead of the winter night, they needed to know when to wake up. So, they invented the mechanical clock. At first, it was just bells, rung by water clocks. But soon, it will be gears and escapements. You are living in the first society in history that organizes itself by the hour, not the season. You are listening to the heartbeat of the modern world beginning to thump, the twist, the phoenix. As you stand there in the firelight, realizing that you have a plow that can tame the north, a mill that can grind without sweat, and a bell that orders the day, you realize the truth. Rome didn't fall. It shed its skin. The complexity of the empire, the taxes, the bureaucracy, the global trade, was too heavy. It collapsed under its own weight. But what was left was lighter, faster, and more adaptable. The catastrophe was actually a reset. It cleared away the dead wood of the old system to make room for the new. Without the collapse of the slave economy, we never would have invented the machine. Without the collapse of the central government, we never would have invented the self-reliant local communities that eventually gave birth to the city-states and the guilds. The breakdown was the breakthrough, the sleep of the seed. The fire in the great hall is dying down. The ale has made you heavy-lidded. You walk back to your cottage. The roof is thatched with straw, thick and warm. You have a bed filled with feathers. Outside, the snow is falling on the heavy clay fields, but you are not afraid of the winter anymore. You have the plow to break the earth when spring comes. You have the mill to grind the grain. You have the Lord to guard the gate. You crawl under the firs. The world is quiet, but it is not the silence of death. It is the silence of a seed waiting under the snow. It is gathering energy. It is preparing to burst forth into the cathedrals, the universities, and the Renaissance that is to come. You are safe in the incubator of history. As you drift off, let go of the idea that things went wrong. History is a river. Sometimes it flows wide and slow. Sometimes it goes over a waterfall and crashes, but it never stops. And the water at the bottom of the falls is just as fresh as the water at the top. Rest now in the fertile dark. The world ends and then it continues. We have traveled a very long way tonight. We started in the golden sunlight of the 3rd century, surrounded by the smell of spices and the hum of a global empire. We watched the storm clouds gather. We shivered as the river froze. We sat in the dark as the lights went out, and we huddled by the fire in the great hall as humanity reinvented itself. But now, the time machine is slowing down. The spinning years are decelerating. The blur of centuries is settling into a steady picture. Tonight, for our final chapter, we return to the surface. We are coming back to the present day, but I want you to bring the eyes of the traveler with you. I want you to look at the modern world not as a solid, permanent thing, but as just another layer in the cake. Just another thin skin of asphalt and glass stretched over the deep, silent earth of history. Tonight, we find the comfort in knowing that we have been here before. Picture this. It is the present day. You are in Rome again. It is late at night. The tourists have gone back to their hotels. The frantic energy of the modern city, the Vespas, the tour buses, the selfie sticks, has quieted down. You are standing on the Via dei Fori Imperioli, the wide asphalt road that cuts straight through the ancient ruins. Look down at your feet. Beneath the soles of your modern sneakers is pavement. Beneath that pavement is 19th century cobblestone. Beneath that is the dirt of the Middle Ages, the dark earth we saw the ox grazing on. And beneath that is the marble of the Caesars. You are standing on a vertical timeline. You are suspended above a deep well of time. To your left, floodlights illuminate the Colosseum. It glows an eerie electric orange against the black sky. It looks different now. It has been scrubbed clean. The medieval apartments are gone. The vegetable gardens are gone. It is a museum piece now. We have put a velvet rope around the collapse and called it heritage. But if you close your eyes, you can still hear the echo. You can hear the wind whistling through the arches in 500 AD. You can hear the silence of the day the water stopped, and you realize something profound. The silence wasn't the end. The people who lived in the ruins, the boy with the ox, the monk with the pen, the blacksmith in the arena. They didn't just survive, they became us. We are not the children of Rome. We are the children of the survivors of Rome. We are the descendants of the people who learned to grow food in the cracks of the pavement, the modern mirror. Now, let's fly home. Let's go to your city, your street. Think about the world we live in right now. It feels very similar to part one, doesn't it? We have our own invisible web. We have Amazon Prime instead of the Roman shipping lanes. We have the internet instead of the Roman road. We have central heating and spices from halfway across the world. And, like the Romans, we have our anxieties. We read the news and we see the cracks. We worry about the supply chains. We worry about the changing climate. We worry about the barbarians, whoever we think they are, at the gate. We feel that same low-level hum of dread that the merchant felt in part 3. Is this sustainable? Can it last forever? The history we have just lived through tells us the answer. No, nothing lasts forever. Systems break, currencies fail, empires fade. That sounds frightening, but tonight I want you to see it as liberating, because the other lesson of history is this: the breaking is not the end. When the Roman economy collapsed, the world didn't vanish into a black hole. It just simplified. It went local. It went quiet. If our lights were to go out tomorrow, if our internet were to fail, we would do exactly what Paulinus did in part 5. We would light a candle. We would wrap ourselves in a blanket. We would talk to our neighbors. We would be scared for a while, yes, but then we would adapt. We would plant a garden in the football stadium. We would use the old skyscrapers as greenhouses. We would invent a new way to live. There is a tremendous peace in realizing that humanity is tougher than its institutions. The government might vanish, the bank might close, but the human being, you, me, us, we are incredibly resilient weeds. We always come back. The legacy of resilience. Let's go back to that image of the heavy plow and the wet earth of the north. Think about the courage it took to invent that. Those people were living in the wreckage of the greatest civilization on earth. They could have given up. They could have sat in the mud and mourned the past, but they didn't. They looked at the mud and said, I can work with this. They built a new world, a world of cathedrals that soared higher than any Roman temple, a world of universities, a world of mechanical clocks and stained glass. And eventually, that world gave birth to the Renaissance, which gave birth to the Industrial Revolution, which gave birth to the room you are lying in right now. You are the fruit of their resilience. The blood that runs in your veins is the blood of survivors. It is the blood of people who watched the sky fall and decided to build a roof. So whatever you are worried about tonight, whatever collapse you fear in your own life, whether it's a job, a relationship, or the state of the world, let it go. History tells you that you will handle it. You are built to handle it. You come from a long line of people who handled it. The final visualization. Now let's turn off the lights of the city. Imagine you are floating high above the earth. You can see the timeline of history stretching out like a great river. You see the bright golden patch of Rome. You see it narrow and darken into the collapse. But then you see it widen again. You see the sparks of the Middle Ages. You see the explosion of the modern world. It pulses, it breathes, expansion and contraction, inhale and exhale. We are just in one breath of the universe. Drift down now, lower and lower. Drift back into your own room. Feel the bed beneath you. It is solid. Feel the blanket. It is warm. Hear the silence of your house. It is a good silence. It is a safe silence. You have walked through 2,000 years of struggle to get here. You have learned the secrets of the emperors and the peasants. You know that the sun will set and the winter will come. But you also know with absolute certainty that the sun will rise and the spring will follow. The wheel turns, the river flows, and you are safe in the current. The sign-off, the book is closed. The history is written. The ghosts of the past are smiling at you because you are their future. They are watching over you, whispering, "We made it, and so will you." Let the weight of the centuries drop from your shoulders. Let the story fade into the velvet dark. Sleep now, with the courage of the ancients and the peace of the survivor. Good night.